podcast is never intended as legal advice. Each podcast is a brainstorm of ideas and potential solutions. Consult an attorney for your legal questions. Thank you. Welcome. This is a follow-up discussion regarding dementia-related behaviors. Now, I am not a medical doctor, but boy, do I have a lot of experience. I know of all sorts of sundry issues that have arisen in my family's household, and whether it was due to dementia or just an aging decline in processing my parents' thoughts, it happened. So I'm going to share what happened with me, because if you learn A happened to me, then when you see A1 or A2 or A3, you'll probably remember and say, aha, this could be an age-related issue, and I don't have to run to the hospital. I don't have to make major accommodations. I just need to work with my parent. So, what was the first one? My mother declared she had doilies missing. Well, of course, the first thing I do is come over and we look through the drawers, look here, look there. And because my parents were from the Great Generation, my mother had a gazillion doilies. More than I'll ever think of owning, but that was a very important part of their household. So we did not locate the doilies. And we know nobody took them. We really do know that. But for some reason, and I figured it was probably put somewhere that I can't find them, but we ended up missing a number of things, and to this day I'm not sure what happened to them. So the doilies were disruptive enough to my mother. She made my father change all the locks on the house. She was certain somebody got in. So beware of the response my mom had, because she probably was uncomfortable and a little bit fearful that somebody was coming into her house and messing with some of her personal property. That's a pretty unsettling thing. Then some of the other issues that came up with trying to process things was the big one. Your parent or family member has a cell phone. No matter what kind it is, with big buttons, big screen, whatever, or you can talk to it, the second they cannot seem to make the phone work is a very good clue. And that was a good clue to me on many occasions, because my mom had been in and out of rehab. She was in the hospital 10 times in 1 year. Whew. And when I took her to rehab one night, she was certain that they were holding her there. They weren't going to let her go. And I thought, ooh, Mom. And the people there loved my mother. They were so good to her at night. They would calm her. They would do anything to try to make her life palatable. So she actually said, I'm going to call the cops. I'm going to call the cops. So I kind of stood close by, watched my parent, and my mother could not figure out how to call the police on her phone. She, of course, could not figure out how to do that on the internal phone either, which was a godsend, because could you imagine a rehab center and every senior calling 911? Huh? That would just be a most difficult situation. So fortunately, it generally works itself out when the person is not managing, because they may need rest, they may be dehydrated, they may just be tired. You know, it's easy for us as young people to have energy and go for days, go long nights, but once you hit a certain age, you can't go that fast and that far, and so your tiredness manifests in different ways. So what were some of the other indications? The phone was a big one. Now, having your parents pick up the phone at home to try and change the TV channels is not a big deal, so don't let that be of concern. Anybody can do that. We can do that. But an inability to make the coffee pot work. And I usually had a great test for my mother because she was a phenomenal baker. And that's that I would see if she could make sugar cookies with her cookie gun. And if she could do that, then I knew she was doing okay at the time. My mom also was an incredible seamstress. And I'm now learning, as I've inherited her phenomenal sewing machine, that every time the thread got caught and she had to take the machine in, that was most likely because she was having a tough day. I haven't had that ever happen yet, but she seemed to be a frequent flyer. But she'd get in the car, load it up, and drive over to the sewing machine repair place, and they would get her squared away. So keep an eye out for a parent's inability or a family member's inability to do some simple things. If it's make coffee, if it's to use the cooktop, if it's to use the microwave, but especially if it's to use the phone, that's an indication you need to watch closely and keep a closer eye on your family member. Thank you for joining us in this discussion about some of the effects of aging and processing that changes as we age, and it happens to all of us. It's not if, it's just when.